Hello again. Today we're in Liverpool, New York, and we're at the Onondaga Lake Park. We're going into the Salt Museum. We're going to find out why there's a salt museum here. Why a museum about salt? And this building is this type of building for a reason. You can kind of see the upper windows up there. It's like a two-layered roof with a chimney on the end. It might seem a little strange by looking at it, but I've never been in here. So we're gonna go kind of check it out. Walking around the backside of the Salt Museum before we go in. It's a historical marker out here. This is a Hungry for History historical marker about salt potatoes, popularized by salt industry workers. Potatoes boiled in brine and paired with melted butter, served in local taverns and eateries as early as 1883. Onondaga Lake Park Salt Museum, hours Thursday through Sunday, 10 to 4. And restrooms, if you need them, are that way. And East Shore Trail. This is the foot of the East Shore Trail. It's admission free.
The pillars have fallen in the water.
So it's wagon making.
Once again, the western shore of Onondaga Lake is undipped. A paved trail now runs partway down the shoreline that was once
Salt produced by solar evaporation.
You can walk or bike there.
So the water would go in there and it would evaporate, and then leaving salt behind. Really interesting building. Like different displays here. The tools I've never seen before. Like what is this thing? It looks like a dolly of some type. And this is some type of roller. So I didn't know that they pumped the brine up and then it would be evaporated, the water would be evaporated out of it. I didn't know that. And kind of the story of how the state would make money on the production of salt. To ensure all manufacturers had equal access to brine, the state operated pump houses. Pumps powered by water and later steam forced the brine to tall reservoirs. From the reservoirs, the brine was distributed by gravity through miles of wooden pipes to the various salt-making establishments. There's a sign, Getty's Pump House Water Wheel Hub. And this is it right here. This massive wheel would operate the pumps. Wow. It's got to be like 3 feet across at least. Right here it says, why were barrels used to ship salt? Because they were strong and would protect the salt from moisture better than cloth bags or other containers. The round shape also made it easy to roll the barrels from the storehouse to the canal boat or train. The cooper's trade. Coopering was one of the most important 19th century local industries. Most farm produce was carried in barrels. Kegs and casks were used by dozens of breweries in Syracuse. Needs of the salt industry also kept hundreds of coopers and apprentices busy. So many cooperages lined North Salina Street that it was sometimes called Cooper Street. Drilling rigs used on salt reservation were horse-drawn and steam-powered. This rig was manufactured in Chicago between 1888 and 1897. It's operated by dropping a long, heavy bit into the ground about 20 times a minute, drilling or punching out a 6-inch diameter hole. Wow. Yeah, that must be the drilling bit. Here's a log pipe, so this would be used to transport the liquid brine. And you can see it's hollowed out through there. So here it says the native Onondagas first discovered the salt springs in 1654 Father Simon Lemoyne made his first visit to Onondaga Lake, and the Onondagas showed him these evil springs. Although the springs were visited often during the next 100 years, it was not until 1774 that the first recorded commercial production of salt took place. Things to do with salt: tanning, leather hides, food preservation. Here's a reproduction of a pump which was used to pump brine from underground into a holding tank. Boiling method of getting salt. So they boiled all the water in buildings like this, actually. Here's an example of a building. You would produce salt. All the little vats here. They would scoop the salt out. Wow. Yeah, look at that huge chimney. In the year of peak production, 1862, 316 boiling blocks lined the banks of the Erie and Oswego canals. The average block contained 50 to 60 kettles with a capacity of 120 gallons each. Potentially over 2 million gallons of brine could be boiled in 17,000 kettles. Some blocks were even constructed to contain as many as 100 kettles. It's a photograph of one. This is a really beautiful building. And we can go up there. Maybe we'll start down here. So down here they would have the furnaces. An embodied spirit of the devil attends to them. The huge fires, thick coal dust, and begrimed workers of the salt blocks furnace evoked hellish images in the chronicles of Victorian observers. Heat traveled through parallel flues in the chimney at the far end of the salt block. Above you, in a typical block, 6,000 gallons of salt water were brought to a rolling boil. Imagine how hot that would have been. So they would throw the coal or the wood in here. Guy up here hard at work. Oh my goodness. So they would shut these to keep the heat going. Wow. That's some hard work. Hot. Okay, so let's go back up. The videos here are really good, but that was weird. That was strange. So there's the inside of the roof right here, the big chimney at the end. And these are, obviously, this is the wood pipe that would bring the brine in. They would cork the ends of these logs that would carry the brine in. That had to have been so just crazy. How would you walk home every day? How would you walk home like covered in salt? Just what a salty job. These people were salty at the end of the workday, pun intended. The task of the salt boiler was grim. He labored in 90-degree heat and unbearable humidity 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Injury or death could result from burns from a scalding splash of brine, or he could fall into a kettle. During the production season, they would only get the 4th of July, Thanksgiving, or any sick day where he wouldn't report to work. Those are the days you'd get off. So they would burn the coal or wood downstairs, and then the brine would come in through these logs right here. They'd have to cork them off as they filled this cauldron, this vat, basically. Scoop out salt after the water was gone, and then they would obviously look like they would put the salt in here. Wow. So it's a really interesting building. It's built as if this was one of the salt production facilities. And then
The flues ran under it and heated 50 to 60 large cast iron kettles. Storage bins
the videos are really interesting too.
the entire length of the building and were used to hold the salt
Wow.
while it dried. Wooden pipelines made out of
This is really amazing.
tree trunks were laid down the middle of the block, fed into the fire that provided the heat to boil the brine. This proved to be a more fuel-efficient way to boil brine, as one fire heated all of the kettles. Brine for the kettles was first pumped into cisterns located next to each boiling block. The large impurities were allowed to settle out before the brine was released into the main pipeline that ran down the center of the block. Workmen would then remove wooden plugs from the spouts leading to each kettle, allowing the brine to flow into the kettles. As the brine began to be heated, the salt boilers would place a long-handled dish-shaped object called a bittern pan in the bottom of each kettle. After the brine had boiled for an hour or more, impurities called bitterns would sink to the bottom. The pans would then be removed and the impurities discarded.
This horse-drawn cart. There's like 2 rows of 14 barrels on that one side. I am flabbergasted by the fact that I haven't been in here. I've lived here my whole life and I haven't been in this museum, which doesn't look like it would be anything, but there's so much in here and so much history. I learned quite a few things, and that's the whole reason for museums. And just discovered another thing. Leaving, this sign has been out here. I've walked past it a number of times. I haven't bothered to read it. It's about the Salt Museum chimney. Salt block number 56, built in 1856 on this site by Stephen Van Alstine, was one of 316 salt blocks that lined the Erie and Oswego canals near Onondaga Lake during the Civil War. After great success in the late 1800s, the structure was abandoned and later burned, with only the original chimney, which was once about 100 feet tall, remaining. Remnants of that distinctive chimney were the cornerstone of the 1933 construction of the Salt Museum, which commemorates the industry that made Syracuse the Salt City. And down here, this is the Salt Museum's parking area. Where you are currently standing was a turning basin for the boats on the Oswego Canal. What the heck? What the heck? Interesting. So I just kind of want to point out that once again, we're walking around this lake this summer on the channel. If you want to see more of Onondaga Lake history, what's here now, and things like that. This is the second in that video series, could call it. I just want to go around this building and see the chimney. But we're kind of walk around this lake that has so much of a history, and I grew up in the area, don't know anything about it. I know it exists. I know Onondaga Lake Park is pretty cool. Everyone likes hanging out here. But even when you live in a place your whole life almost, you still don't know things about the area. And so when you come across your own salt museum, you should go see it. Look at these old stairs. So if you do like this video, be sure to click thumbs up down below. And we're hoping to have more subscribers, so why don't you be one of those and click the subscribe button. Our goal is 2,000 by August. We're almost there, we're getting there. Yeah, look at that. It's the chimney from the original building. Wow. So that chimney is from 1856. Thanks for coming on this adventure with me. We'll see you in the next one.